I came home after a 12-hour shift to find my driveway completely blocked by a moving truck. My new neighbors were unloading. I kindly asked if they could move it. The husband laughed and said, "It's your fault for owning more than one car." When I threatened to call a tow, they blocked my mailbox for 3 weeks. One night, I finally snapped, and what I found underneath their porch explained why they were so desperate to keep me quiet. I live in Concord, North Carolina. A quiet cul-de-sac where most people wave when they pass, keep their lawns neat, and mind their own business. I work long hours as an ER nurse at Atrium Health. It's stressful, it's thankless sometimes, but I've always loved it. That night, I'd done a 12-hour shift. We lost a kid. A teenager. Overdose. His mother screamed so loud it echoed in my ears the whole drive home. I was dead on my feet. I just wanted to park, shower, and pass out. But when I turned onto my street, a huge budget moving truck was smack in front of my house. Not just near it, blocking my driveway completely. They weren't even trying to keep to the curb. They had it parked diagonally, like someone took a sharp turn and gave up halfway through. I slowed down and just stared. 2 people were hauling boxes, not on the sidewalk, not even across their own lawn, but across my grass. The guy was bald, stocky, maybe late 30s. The woman was carrying a toddler strapped to her chest. She kept yelling about where the baby monitor was. I parked on the street 3 houses down and walked back up. "Hey," I called out, trying to sound calm. "Could you move the truck? You're blocking my driveway." The guy looked at me like I had just asked him to donate a kidney. "You could just park on the street like everyone else," he said. "It's your fault for owning more than one car." I laughed at first. I thought maybe he was joking. "No, seriously," I said. "I just got off work. I'm exhausted. I live here, I need to get in my driveway." He didn't budge. His wife rolled her eyes and kept unpacking. "I'll be out in a couple hours," he finally muttered. "We're moving in. Show a little neighborly patience." I repeated myself, more firm this time. "Move it! Or I'm calling a tow." That's when he squared up to me. His voice got low. "You call a tow, and I'll make you regret it." He stared at me for a beat too long. Then he turned away like I was nothing. "I didn't call a tow. Maybe I should have. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. Big mistake." The next morning, an old van appeared in front of my mailbox. Rusted, flat tire, no tags. I left a note. Then another. I reported it. Nothing happened. For 3 weeks, I couldn't get mail delivered. I had to drive to the post office every damn day after work. Doug, yeah, that's his name, claimed it wasn't his van. But I saw him go in and out of it at night. Once, I watched from my window as he carried a gym bag and stuffed it under the back seat. Things started disappearing from my yard. At first, small stuff. A hose. A garden gnome my niece gave me. Then my solar lights. Then a brand new bag of potting soil. My newly planted maple sapling was ripped out of the ground. I set up a security camera. First night, I caught a blurry image, someone in a hoodie, walking fast near my garage. But they avoided the lens. Smart enough to stay out of the center of the view. The police said it wasn't enough. Then, 3 times in 2 months, I got nails in my tires. I'd wake up, start my car, and the pressure warning light would be on. The last time, the tire blew halfway to work. I nearly got rear-ended. That same week, I came home and found dog crap smeared, not dumped, smeared across my front steps. I didn't even own a dog. That was it. I snapped. It was a Friday night. Past 11. I hadn't eaten. I was shaking with rage. I grabbed my flashlight and went across their lawn, straight to the side of their house. I was looking for anything. A reason. Evidence. I just needed to know what kind of people these were. That's when I saw the lattice under their front porch. It was loose. Like someone had opened it before and didn't bother putting it back right. I got down, pulled it open, and shined my light inside. At first I just saw clutter. Boxes. A folding chair. Then, behind one of the boxes, a large plastic tub. I crawled in. Inside the tub were prescription pill bottles, all from different names, several used syringes, burned metal spoons, tiny baggies, the kind that usually hold jewelry or drugs, but the worst thing was a small notebook tucked under a t-shirt. It had dates, first names, dosages, prices. Names I recognized. One of them belonged to a guy I'd seen OD in my ER a few months ago. I backed out fast, heart pounding. That's when I tripped. My foot hit something metallic, small, low to the ground. I crouched and looked closer. It was a camera. A small GoPro, wired to a battery pack, taped under one of the porch beams. And it was mine. One of the two I'd set up around my house. It had disappeared weeks ago. Now it was under their porch, hidden, aimed straight at their supply stash. That's when it all clicked. They'd found it. Moved it. Thought I was onto them. Which I wasn't. Not at first. That's why the escalation. The van. The mailbox. The nails. The crap on my porch. They were scared I'd seen too much. And they were trying to make me back off. But now, I had their notebook. I went back to my house and locked the doors. I didn't sleep. At 6 a.m., I called my cousin. He works narcotics in Mecklenburg County. I didn't know what would happen next. But I knew I wasn't going to be the one who stayed quiet anymore. My cousin, Derek, isn't the kind of guy who scares easy. He's been in law enforcement for over a decade, and he's seen everything from meth busts to cartel-connected overdoses. When I called him and said, "I found something under my neighbor's porch," I could hear the change in his voice immediately. He came by that same day, dressed in jeans and a hoodie so he wouldn't draw attention. I showed him the notebook, the camera, everything. He didn't touch anything. Just stared at the notebook like it was a loaded gun. "They're dealing," he said flatly. "And probably using, too. You said you found your camera there?" I nodded. "I think they knew I was watching them. That's why all this crap started happening." He sighed. "That explains a lot. And if they're bold enough to stash product under their porch, they're probably hiding more inside." Derek made a few calls. He told me to sit tight, don't say anything, and definitely don't confront them. I was fine with that. I didn't want a war, I just wanted peace. My mistake again. Because Doug and Marcy must have sensed something was coming. 2 days after I talked to Derek, I came home and found my garage door open. I never leave it open. My tools were tossed everywhere. My ladder was gone. My backup camera for the car? Smashed on the concrete floor. But the creepiest part? Someone had nailed a single photo to the inside wall, a picture of me, taken from behind, walking to my front door. I don't even know how they got it. But it was printed, taped to cardboard, and stabbed to the wall with a rusted nail. No note. No message. Just that. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, Derek showed up with 2 other guys in unmarked cars. They parked down the street and walked casually to my place. They were getting a warrant. But here's the thing about Doug and Marcy. They weren't dumb. They must have seen Derek's car, or maybe they recognized someone. Because that same afternoon, I watched from my window as they suddenly packed up the same moving truck they'd arrived in months ago. Fast. Like panicked fast. They threw everything in like they didn't care what broke. Boxes flying. The toddler screaming. Doug yelling at Marcy loud enough for me to hear through the glass. By 6 p.m., they were gone. Just gone. I called Derek. "They're running," he cursed. "We'll get them. But we've got enough now to issue a statewide alert. And if they cross state lines, it's federal." But they didn't make it far. 3 days later, I got a call from Derek. "Got him," he said. "Pulled over in Georgia. State trooper recognized the plate from the bolo. Found more pills in the cab, plus cash. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Because 2 weeks after the arrest, someone broke into my house. Middle of the night. I was upstairs. Heard glass shatter in the kitchen. I grabbed a bat I keep under the bed and crept down. The kitchen window was smashed in. A footprint on the counter. A drawer pulled open. Nothing taken. Just a warning. Whoever it was, they weren't there to steal. They were sending a message. Derek had people drive by for the next few days. I added more cameras, this time hardwired and hidden better. I couldn't shake the feeling, though. Like something was still wrong. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m. Couldn't breathe. Like something heavy was on my chest. I went outside, stood on the porch. That's when I saw the back gate wide open. I knew I had closed it. I walked to the edge of my yard and spotted something shiny in the grass. It was a key. Not mine. Just one single house key with a black rubber grip on it. Lying in my backyard. I didn't know how it got there. I didn't know who it belonged to. But it felt like a message. Like someone out there still had access. Still watching. Still not done. I took the key inside, wrapped it in a plastic bag, and put it in my freezer. I didn't want my fingerprints on it. I didn't know who it belonged to, but I had a strong gut feeling it was meant for me to find. Meant to make me feel unsafe in my own home. I called Derek again. He was already pissed that the break-in didn't lead to any fingerprints. Now this? This is a message, he said. They're not acting alone. And that's when everything shifted. A week later, Derek called me late at night. He said, "You sitting down?" I sat. Doug made a deal. What kind of deal? A plea. Less prison time in exchange for information. He gave us a list of names, contacts, buyers, even 2 suppliers. But here's the thing, he left someone off the list. I didn't get it. Okay, why does that matter? Derek hesitated. Because one of the suppliers is local. And we found something weird when we checked their phone records. Your address popped up in a message string. From months ago. What? He read me the message. It was from a burner phone that they tracked back to a prepaid plan purchased at a gas station a mile from my house. The message said, "She lives 2 doors down. Keeps to herself. Works nights. We can move quiet." That message was sent 3 days before Doug and Marcy moved in. I felt the air suck out of my lungs. You're saying, what? That they moved in, on purpose? I think someone planted them there. Or at least gave them the idea. You weren't just a random neighbor, and this wasn't just about blocking your driveway. I started going over everything in my head. The missing camera. The things stolen from my yard. The picture nailed in the garage. That damn key. Derek kept talking. There's something else. One of the other names Doug gave us? A woman. Goes by Tina C. She used to work for the same hospital as you. You ever hear that name? I froze. Yeah, I'd heard of her. Tina Carter. Former nurse. Fired for stealing fentanyl from the med room. 2 patients crashed after she switched out their meds. 1 died. I remembered her mugshot in the break room. Management put it up as a warning. But I didn't know her personally. Never worked the same shifts. So why the hell was she texting about me? Derek said they couldn't prove anything yet. Tina had disappeared 2 months ago. No address, no employer. Like she dropped off the map. That's when I realized what was really going on. Doug and Marcy weren't just petty drug dealers. They were part of something bigger. And whoever was pulling the strings had been watching me. Maybe because of where I worked. Maybe because they thought I had access to something. Or maybe, just maybe, because I had seen something without realizing it. That made me dangerous. I started sleeping with a bat next to me. I installed deadbolts on every door and jam bars on every window. Derek had a patrol swing by once a night, but even he admitted they were stretched thin. And then, the worst part. I went back under Doug and Marcy's porch. Something told me I'd missed something. I crawled in again, this time slower, more carefully. I pulled up the boards where the plastic tub had been sitting. There was a loose floorboard beneath it. I lifted it. Underneath? Another notebook. But this one wasn't about drugs. It was about me. Every entry had a date and time. When I left for work. When I got home. What I was wearing. Who I spoke to in my yard. Even what groceries I carried into the house. They had been watching me. For months. There were photos stapled to the pages. Me pulling weeds. Me talking to the mailman. Me falling asleep on the porch swing. My hands were shaking. My mouth went dry. I wasn't just a neighbor. I was a target. I took that second notebook to Derek right away. I didn't even call first. I just drove it to his place, hands trembling on the wheel the whole time. He didn't say a word for 5 minutes after flipping through it. Finally, he looked up at me. "They were hired," he said. "This is surveillance. Organized. Someone wanted you watched closely." I asked the one question that had been burning in my head since this whole nightmare started. "Why me?" He rubbed his face. "We think it's because of a case you were involved with at the hospital. Someone you treated. Maybe saw too much. Maybe they thought you knew something. Could testify. That overdose victim you lost 2 months ago, we ran his name again. He had ties to a crew moving pills across 3 counties. His sister? Guess who she used to live with?" "Don't tell me," I said. "Doug and Marcy. Shared an address in Gastonia?" That was it. That was the link. I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't even known. I was just in the wrong place, saw the wrong person die, and somehow became a loose end they thought they needed to tie up. Derek got a court order to pull traffic cam footage from the night Doug and Marcy left. They weren't just running from the cops, they were trying to disappear. But they weren't alone. Another car was trailing behind them. We traced it. Stolen plates. Fingerprints wiped. Whoever it was, they were watching to make sure Doug and Marcy didn't talk. They failed. Doug flipped. And Marcy? She cracked not long after. She gave up Tina Carter's burner number, and the name of a guy called Rudy Moss, someone I'd never heard of. Until Derek dug into his record. Turns out Rudy used to work private security at the hospital. Let go for harassment. No charges filed, but plenty of red flags. And one more detail? Rudy had been dating Tina Carter. It was all connected. They were using people who already knew the hospital, knew the layout, and thought they could use my access or my silence to protect their own. That's when I made a choice. I was done being scared. I was done waiting to be hurt. I used the notebook. I made a copy, left the original in a safe at Derek's house. And I called Rudy. Yes. I called him. Blocked number. 1 sentence. "I know what you did. I know about Tina. I'm not staying quiet." I hung up. 3 nights later, my power went out. But I was ready. I stayed downstairs, lights off, bat in hand. I had a backup generator on a delay switch. And I had cameras running on battery. Just past 2 a.m., I saw the motion light outside flick on. Someone was in my yard. Then another light. Backyard. Movement again. I stayed low. I didn't make a sound. 5 minutes passed. Then glass shattered upstairs. I dialed Derek without speaking. Left the line open. Footsteps above me. Slow. Careful. I waited. Bat raised. Then the door creaked open. It wasn't Rudy. It was Tina. Her hair was wild, her eyes glassy, pupils blown wide. She was high, sweating, muttering. "You shouldn't be looked. You shouldn't be looked." She lunged. I swung. The bat hit her right arm. She screamed. I shoved her back into the hallway and locked myself in the bathroom. Police were on the way. I heard her run, back down the stairs, out the door. But she didn't get far. Derek had patrols circling. They caught her half a block away, bleeding and wild-eyed, screaming about the files and the girl who ruined everything. She's in jail now, facing charges that go back years. Rudy's still missing, but the net's closing in. And Doug and Marcy? Testifying under federal protection. Still scum. But at least they're useful now. As for me? I sold the house. I couldn't stay. Too many nights I still hear glass breaking, or see that photo nailed in my garage in my dreams. But I learned something through all this. Silence never helps. And when people mess with you, try to scare you into keeping quiet, you make damn sure they regret ever thinking you would. I don't know if Rudy will ever get caught. But if he ever shows up again, I'll be ready. And this time, I won't be the one running.